Hello friends, welcome back to the channel, or if you are new here, welcome. Today I am sharing another video of the meals that I made for my family this past week, and we are sticking true to our budget this month where I am trying to stay at $100 or less per week for our dinners. This week I am mixing it up a little bit and I'm starting with dessert because that just seems right. So I saw on a TikTok or a reel or something, I saw a video where a previous employee of a pizza place, they were making a dessert pizza. And I thought it was a very interesting concept. I've never had one or made one before, so I wanted to give it a try. Now, for the pizza crust, you can do any pizza crust you're wanting. It can be store-bought. I went ahead and made the one that I am used to making. Now, this recipe does make 2 pizzas, so with the pizza dough, I divided it in half. I have one in the fridge because I'm only going to be making 1 pizza today. And then you will do that exactly how you normally do the pizza dough crust. I have that baking for a couple of minutes, probably like 5-10 minutes in the oven. And while that is baking, I am getting the rest of the ingredients together. So you will take half a box of a yellow cake mix and you put it into a bowl with 1 stick of melted butter. You mix that up, and this is going to make like a sugar cookie topping. So once the crust is done, you'll take that out. Now you don't want to cook it all the way, but you want to cook it to where it's like firm. So I took that out and I'm going to spread the mixture over top of it and try to get it pretty much over the entire thing. While I did not include this into this week's prices because I'm trying to really stick, for one, I'm overall trying to get my entire weekly budget down. However, I'm trying to stick with one thing at a time and just slowly working it down. So for desserts and snacks, I am trying to also reduce the prices of those, but I am more so focusing on the dinners per week for the time being. So I did not factor a price into this one, but this is pretty fairly cheap, especially if you're making the pizza dough from scratch at home. So, and actually I think if you buy a kit, they're really not that expensive either. So all in all, this is a very cheap recipe, but I did not include that in this week's price. So over top of the cake mixture, you're going to then sprinkle some brown sugar, and there is no measurements with this. It's just kind of measure with your heart. So sprinkle some brown sugar until you are happy with it, and then go in and sprinkle some chocolate chips. It has the effect of like a pizza cookie. It's not overwhelmingly pizza flavor, but it does taste like a really it tastes like a cookie, but it's very different and it's very good. My kids love this, and this is something that when right now I'm trying to reduce the price of snacks and desserts, this is something that is very easy, very quick, and my kids really love it. So I have been making these and then cutting them. You can cut them into squares and keep them in Tupperware, and have it like a little snack or a dessert. It works out perfectly, and it is very budget friendly. Once I had all the toppings on, I baked it until it was, kind of starting to brown, which was about 12 minutes. For this next meal, we are doing breaded chicken, a salad, and some pasta. This meal was kind of a last minute meal that I really just threw together with whatever we had on hand. This was right before we are going grocery shopping, so we had very limited things on hand, just working with what I have. This meal generally costs about $13.23. I did include a couple of the pantry staples because I did actually have to go and buy them. But the ones that I did have on hand, like the mayonnaise or the olive oil, I did not end up adding that in. I have a large pot of boiling water going on the stove to cook the pasta in. And then in this pan, I have some cherry tomatoes, along with a couple small vine tomatoes and half of a diced onion, sauteing them in some olive oil, garlic, Italian seasoning, and salt and pepper. Now you can use about half a cup of water. I did some broth instead that I had made earlier this week. So I used some bone broth, but you can use water or any kind of broth that you want. You'll just put the lid on and we're gonna let those cook down. Now in the oven and in this bag, I am smashing some homemade breadcrumbs because I realized I did not have enough to bread the chicken with. However, I did end up burning them because I completely forgot I'm a mom, I have 4 kids, and I completely forgot that I was cooking them. So I ended up burning them and I was really over it by the time that I did that. So I just had my husband pick up a thing of breadcrumbs on his way home from work and it worked out just fine. So I did factor that into the price, but originally I was planning on just making some breadcrumbs. I sliced up some bread that I had made earlier that was kind of, ready to be used, and then diced it up, put it in the oven, and when it was nice and crumbly, that was when I put it in a bag to smash and make into breadcrumbs. So once I did that, I put it back on because I wanted it to toast a little bit more, and that's where I went wrong and it ended up burning. So if you do that, just don't make the mistake I did and pay attention to what you have cooking. So to the tomato mixture, I put in a couple pats of butter and then I put the lid back on to let it continue to simmer just lightly. And then once that has simmered down, then I'm going to pour it into this pasta. This actually worked out perfectly. This is a pasta that I'm going to probably continuously make. It was so easy and really flavorful. So anyway, I added that into this. I added a little bit more broth just for kind of a little bit more liquid, and then I put it aside and I'm going to be starting on the chicken. So on my dredging station, I have 1 pan of just flour, and then I have this bowl of egg wash, and in my other pan it is the breadcrumbs. So I put them into the flour, I get them fully coated, put them in the eggs, and then they go into the breadcrumbs, and then I will put them into a really hot pan on the stove with a little bit of olive oil. I'll cook them through, and then if you have like a large batch, you can put them in the oven at like 200 degrees on a wire rack, just so they stay warm until dinner's done. This is a very similar meal to the one that I have been making pretty much weekly. My kids, it is a huge favorite because it's so similar to like chicken tenders or fried chicken, because that's basically what it is. This one was a little crispier this week. I usually won't use the breadcrumbs. I just do like a very simple flour breading, and that is a really good option too. However, I just kind of wanted to mix it up a little bit this week, and that's why I added the breadcrumbs. Either way, this is always a huge hit and probably something that is going to continue to be on rotation in my family. I have not been buying the chicken nuggets, the frozen ones, or the chicken tenders or anything like that. So this kind of really fills that missing thing that my kids are missing from no longer having the frozen nuggets or anything like that. I also like how versatile it is. Some weeks we'll just have the chicken cut up. Other times I think just last week we had it on sandwiches, like a Caesar salad chicken sandwich. That was really great. I love the versatility of this meal, and so having it every week, it doesn't feel like we're having it every week because we're mixing it up. So this is, again, that Caesar salad dressing recipe that I made, I think it was last week. And so I will go ahead and put the recipe down below in the description box if you're wanting to make it yourself. This is a family favorite of ours. It comes together really quick, and I usually always have all the ingredients for it. The only thing I was missing this week was the fresh lemon. I went to the grocery store, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago, and so I have not been back since. I'm trying to stretch that trip as long as I possibly can. So I did not have any fresh lemon, but I did have some of this lemon juice in my fridge, so I just used that instead. It does taste a lot better with fresh lemon, but just use whatever you have on hand. like I said, we were kind of getting low on groceries, and I was also needing to use some things up. So I did have a head of lettuce that I needed to use up. So I went ahead, cut that all up, and I'm going to put that in the bowl. As far as the other ingredients in the salad, it's never the same. I hardly ever make a salad exactly the same. I really will just use whatever I have on hand. So that is what I'm going to do. I have a couple of tomatoes that I reserved from the ones that I had in the pasta, so I will cut those up. I have a couple of cucumbers hanging on there, so I'm gonna dice those up and put those in. If you have green onions, those will work great too. Just whatever you have on hand. My kids are a huge fan of croutons, and I think that's kind of a given for all kids, but I do not usually buy them, so I hardly ever have them on hand. I like to put something crunchier in a salad like that, so I did dice up a couple of pieces of bread, just like I did the breadcrumbs, but I did them more uniform sizes and like little squares. I coat those in some olive oil, some garlic, pepper, Italian seasoning. You can do like some powdered Parmesan, that works really great too. Give those a really good toss and throw those in the oven until they're nice and crunchy. They make the best croutons. My family can sit there and eat them like chips. They love them so much. So I did make some of those, and I'll be topping the salad with that as well. Here is how dinner turned out, and it does take a little bit more time to put together, so I would reserve that for a day that you have a little bit more time and you're not as busy in the evening. But this one is such a hit. The kids absolutely love the pasta. This salad, it's one of their favorites as well, and then this chicken is so good. And all of it coming together at about $13.23. Under $15, you really cannot beat that for a family of 6. If you've been here a while, you know that I cave to peer pressure. So that is exactly what this meal is. I do make something very similar to this, but I did see this on TikTok, and it was very similar, but the cutest little Southern lady was making this, and I believe she just called it smothered chicken. The recipe is a little different than the one I usually make, so I wanted to give it a try and test it out. So in the bottom of your crock pot, you will put I did 2 packages of brown gravy. She only did 1, but I figured mine would probably have a little bit more meat, so I did 2 packages of brown gravy, and then you'll do the amount of water that the gravy has on the package. So I did 2 cups of water. You'll stir that all together, mix it to combine, and then you're going to put in some onions. She also used some green peppers that were sliced up, but I did not have those, so I sliced up some onions. I put those in with a can of cream of mushroom. She used cream of chicken. I'm sure it doesn't matter that much. Use whatever you have on hand. Will work just fine. So I'm using a can of cream of mushroom. I'll mix that together, and then I'll put in the sliced onions. I love recipes like this because it's basically a dump and go recipe, and I usually will need one of these recipes throughout the week. I have so much going on, and so I'll choose a busier day to do a dump and go recipe. So it was kind of perfect how this ended up working out, because although I did make like mashed potatoes and I did steam some green beans, other than that, I mean, they're very easy to throw together. So this was a very quick and easy meal, and it was very budget friendly. So I did say that she used drumsticks. I did not have those, so I used used the chicken and leg thigh quarters. I used 3 large ones, and she did say that it was imperative to use this much seasoning. She used a seasoned salt. I did not have that, so I just used that Creole seasoning. She used garlic powder. I believe she also used onion powder, and I swear I keep buying it and I don't know where it is in my house, so I did not add that. She also used about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. It seems like a lot of seasoning, and then also salt and pepper. But once you're kind of shredding the meat up, when it's all done, it does end up working out really well with all of that seasoning. The timer for this just went off, so let's check it. It smells really good. I think it actually needs a little bit more time so it can fall off the bone. So I'm going to kind of mix it up a little bit more, make sure it's in the juices, and then put it on for a little bit longer. Here is how dinner turned out. This was really good. Like I said, very similar to the one that I usually make, but this one had a little bit different of a twist. Very good. I served it with mashed potatoes and some steamed green beans, and this came out to be $9 in total for the entire meal to serve my family of 6. For this next meal, I'm going to be making taco soup. Every week I try to do some kind of taco meal of some variety. This week I decided to do taco soup. So I like to mix it up a lot. We usually will have like just tacos or, you know, something like that, but I try to mix it up because we have it every week. It is one of my family's favorite things to have. So we have it most weeks, but like the chicken, I have to mix it up. So this week we are doing taco soup. Usually I will do taco soup with a ground turkey. However, I have not been able to find ground turkey for some odd reason. So I am using 1 pound of ground beef. I have that going in this pan, and then I'm going to dice up a medium-sized onion into pieces, and then I'll put that in the pan to cook with the ground beef. I am using 2 cans of the red kidney beans for this recipe, but I don't really think it matters. I think a lot of times I'll use like black beans. You can pretty much do whatever kind of beans you like. So these are the ones I'm doing, and I am going to drain and rinse them before I add them to the crock pot. Now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like this recipe is also made with like chicken too, so you can probably do like 1 or 2 chicken breasts in the crock pot, just raw, and then you can cook it like that and then shred it up when it's all cooked through. I don't think I have ever tried it with the chicken, but I feel like now that I'm thinking about it, I've seen it done with chicken. So like I said, I usually use ground turkey, and my family really likes it that way, but I'm sure this can be done a ton of different ways. So once you have the beef all the way cooked through, you'll drain it and then you'll dump it into the crock pot, and then I'm going to put in the beans, and then I'll assemble it with the rest of the ingredients. Now, as far as these ingredients, you can kind of mix it up a little bit. I tried not to deviate too much from the recipe, so I will add in 1 can of corn. However, the recipe does call for Rotella, and this is the one time that I actually did deviate from the recipe. I ended up using diced tomatoes because my husband does get heartburn, and I figured that one, that would help with that, but two, I also did not have Rotel. So I like actually how that turned out better, and I'll probably be making that swap moving forward. So I did 1 can of diced tomatoes, and then I put in 1 package of ranch and 1 package of taco seasoning. I'll give that a really good mix, and then I did not, at this point, I did not have the broth made, so I went ahead and I did a cube of the beef bouillon, and then I added in 4 cups of water. You'll give that a really good stir. You can add a couple of like seasonings, but really if you add in the ranch and the taco seasoning, that's all you really need. So I'll give that a really good stir. I'll put the lid on, and then you'll cook that either 4 hours on high or 6 hours on low. If you know me, I never start these at an appropriate time, so I usually always have to start them on high for 4 hours, and that is what I did today. It has been 4 hours, so the soup is done. A lot of times I will serve this with cornbread or like tortilla chips on top. I did things very, very simple this week because I really was working with a very small budget and I did not have a lot of things. This is the second week since I have been to the grocery store, so by this point we really didn't have things like chips and stuff like that. So I kept it very easy, and I just topped with a little bit of sour cream, and if the kids wanted it, then I did also put on a few little jalapenos too. You can also do avocados. I love fresh avocados on the top of this. Again, we just did not have it. Here is how the taco soup turned out, and in total this meal cost me $9.32 to make. For our next meal, I ended up keeping it very, very simple. We're going to do pork chops on the grill, a salad, and a baked potato. Some nights, and especially this week, it just seems like there's so much going on and you need one of those really quick and thoughtless meals, and that's kind of how this one was. So I ended up coming across a package of pork chops for $9 at Aldi. So I went ahead and I scooped those up. I'm just going to season them with, basically you can do whatever you have on hand. I just did salt, pepper, probably garlic, and some type, probably that Cajun seasoning. I've been using that a lot. I don't know why. I've had it for a while and I've never really used it before, but all of a sudden I started using it. So I'm sure I'll also use it here too. Anyway, I'm just seasoning them really well. And then whenever my husband gets home, he's gonna fire up the grill and we'll throw them on. It's a really quick and easy meal. It comes together very quick. And like I said, there's not a lot of thought that goes into it. And, that's kind of sometimes what you need. So that is what I did. And also when you're planning meals like this for your grocery, like if you plan groceries and you plan your meals ahead of time, these are also really great meals to do if you're not quite sure what meals to do. I find that if I stop planning like actual meals and I have no ideas, what I'll do is I'll get some type of protein, some type of meat, and then I'll just kind of plan whatever around it. So I don't really worry too much about it. And if you're kind of stumped at what meals you should have for the week, if you're trying to plan ahead, that is a really good approach to do. It does you're buying for it and you're not gonna end up spending too much. And that's kind of what my approach has been recently. I feel like when I am not planning individual meals, I actually end up spending less. So that's kind of been interesting, because for the longest time I would plan out all of our meals and thinking that it would end up saving me some money, but in the long run I think that was actually costing me money. So lately I have just been buying the staples, making sure we have a little bit of, the meat and stuff that we usually like, and just having that stuff on hand and then waking up and figuring out what to do with those things. That has worked a lot better for my family recently and has helped now that I'm trying to save on our grocery budget. So again, I'm just making a salad with whatever I have on hand. I had some radishes, some cucumbers, some cherry tomatoes, and some lettuce. I'm just throwing all that together, and I did have some blue cheese that I picked up at the store, and I know that's not for everybody, but my family does generally like that. I had a salad recently in town and it had blue cheese on it, and it was amazing. And so I'm kind of trying to recreate that for our family, and it did end up going over really well, but it is just a very simple salad with whatever I had on hand. I threw some crumbles of blue cheese in there, and then I actually just topped it with ranch dressing, because I felt like if I did blue cheese dressing, it would be a little too overpowering for my kids that are kind of in between on blue cheese. This week we did a lot of leftovers. That's why there's not as many meals as we had left last week. So we did a lot of leftovers. And another thing my family does, which I don't know is kind of weird, but I like to make, like, once a week, I will do a huge batch of broth, like vegetable broth or bone broth. I keep all the little pieces of scrap vegetables and bones of meat and everything. I keep those in baggies in the freezer. And then whenever it comes time to making the broth, when they're all full, I'll put it in a pot and let it simmer for hours on the stove. And it makes such a wonderful broth, but my family loves eating that like soup. So this week, that's actually what we ended up doing. We had leftovers, and then there was like a random day where we just kind of had broth and sandwiches. We kept it very, very easy. I know, like most people, there is always something going on. It always seems like there is something. So we have some stuff going on, and it just kind of got away from me this week as far as meals, and so we kept it very, very simple, which was really nice because, like I said, we had not gone to the grocery store, so we did not have as much as we would if we had went to the grocery store. We worked with what we had, and it was a very simple week, and that's just kind of how it is sometimes. Anyway, so I am wrapping up this meal. I'm making the homemade croutons that I made earlier. Again, just putting them in a dish. I ended up using some bacon grease to season them with, and that is a really nice touch. So if you have some of that, it works really, really well. A little bit goes a long way on croutons. You don't want to put too much oil or grease or anything on them. But this is how the meal turned out. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.